Hello friends, let's take a look at ZRX or ZRX BTC. I don't really know how you're supposed to say it. When I type the ticker in, ZRX BTC, you know, it's got that 0x thing, so I'm thinking it's supposed to be 0x. Somebody asked me to look at this in the comments down below, and I'm going to just do it as a quick bonus for us. I've drawn in this Fibonacci retracement here just from the lows that we had recently, the swing low up to the swing high, and as you can see right here, we're below the 236. So there's your first negative thing to be said about this price action. You know, in the face of positivity, that's your first negative thing. And why have I drawn in from here? Well, that's the real sort of previous low, really. If you wanted to draw in from like literally just from where we were just there now, it doesn't actually change very much in terms of where the 236 is. It's still just there, and we're still below it in terms of the price action. So there's all of that. What actually led up to this? Well, we had this downward trend here, and as you can see in the RSI, that it was very much bullishly divergent. But bullish divergence, you know, we're talking that it lasted. So this thing that started to look like it was bullish divergently coming in, you know, since October, December. Divergence, you know, still there, still going down. February still going down. You know, March still going down. Well, we've got like touches of burst of bullish divergence coming in certain ways. You know, depending on where you're drawing it from. Naturally, of course, you know, looking between these two here, like these lows here, that wasn't, you know, the divergence wasn't really quite there. But looking at it from in terms of the broader perspective here, you know, you can see this generally speaking that happening as generally speaking what we had on the go was this downward trend. You know, just generally speaking. So you could say that it was bullishly divergent for the very longest time before we saw any price action with this thing. Now, of course, this is a total shit coin. It has to be burnt. Let's just put this into context. This is a coin which, whenever we had the highs of the Bitcoin prices, did well. Then we had alt season. You know, it did well. Then afterwards, it's done crap ever since. And if we draw from the lows here, a Fibonacci retracement into the highs, you can see that, you know, we spent very, very little time above the 236, and you know, overall really, and it's just been going on the way down. The way we got to the 786, and what happened? Well, actually, we had the full 100% retrace, almost the full 100% thing. So this is a classic shitcoin, really, in terms of things. So I'd always watch out and bear things in mind as well. With a bigger, broader perspective, while we're here, we can see that the current price action line, the sort of the red line showing that we've just had, you know, a sell. Here is going right across the way, and I think that almost, you know, right now as we're looking at this is a very interesting point. So I'm just going to cover it over with this horizontal line and say, you know, this is a horizontal that we need to be aware of, right in where the price action currently is. If you just look to the left, you can see how it was important here and important here again. You know, there's debates to be had about things, but as we came down here, it was important in this area. These lines are zones, by the way. They're not just straight, you know, to the penny line. That doesn't really matter. Came down, came up here, and you saw it was important again there. Came down, came up, came above the line, you know, above previous high, you could say here, and above this consolidation period, and back down. And where are we here? So we need to see this line being supported, and we'll call that the sort of, just as a general, we'll call it 41,000. We want to see the prices remain above 4,100, sorry, 4,100, or we could just call it 4,000, you know, if you want, 4,000. We want to see the prices remain above 4,000 for us to be able to think, are we turning things around here? So what can we find that might jump out for us in terms of, you know, this big picture? What have we got on the go here? Well, there's a couple of things you can see. Look at this big old volume candle that you had over here, which is all part of this huge upward price movement. And then what did you have then thereafter? Well, the biggest, closest volume candles you had to it were in around this price movement here as well, you know. Since then, the volume has been low. There's been some area at times when it's been going up, you could say, in terms of the standard deviation, but generally speaking, it's actually been kind of overall, you know, like the average has been going lower and lower and lower, really, while the standard deviation is going up, which, you know, what does that signal to me? That signals to me pump and dump coin, which is part of this overall thing as being a shit coin, by the way. Just so you know, this is a shit coin, right? Just so we don't forget that, I'll leave that on the charts for just a wee while as we talk about this. Now, the same sort of things happening again here as we see the volume more or less completely taper off throughout that period there, while we had the deviations from this thing go up, up, and up again. And the question then becomes: is this going to just be a pump and dump? That says pump and dump shitcoin, right? Is that the case, or what? So let's just remove all of this again and be less negative. So that was the negative side of things of the volume aspects. Zoom back out again and take it from the top and say, you know, the positive case scenario starts off with, so we saw this big thing that has that, we saw these two, and they were less than it, and we saw that movement up there. And then, ever since then, we've never had volume that's come up as high as any of these times where the market's been going up in a bullish formation, really. You know, if you could say there's a bull trend here and a bull trend here for this period of time, you know, from November to say January, and then maybe from say March until May, right? You could say maybe that was a bullish market, right? Then you had these big volume things. And you know, we've not seen anything like it until now again, when we've had something. So that's the positive aspect. Maybe that's called, from Peter Brandt likes to talk about this thing called starting or stopping volume. So could that be starting volume? Let's ask the question, could it be starting volume on terms of this thing? Well, it kind of boils down to whether or not we can maintain that level of 4,000 satoshis on this overall. Ultimately, this actually is totally a pump and dump coin, and it is a shit coin. And my general feeling on this is that it's that, as we can see here, if I zoom right back in again, then to this and take the price action. I'll hit auto so it fits a bit more on here. So this is probably what in terms of, like, you know, the people like look at shit coins and stuff like that, and the most they'll have on their screen is is this sort of a thing. Really, it's like a 15-minute chart probably, like wow or whatever. And what do we have here in terms of the 15-minute chart? You've got potentially a shoulder, potentially a head, and potentially a shoulder here. In terms of the volume profile, does it really sort of like signature and this really add up? Well, because it's, like I say, this is a zero volume pump and dump shitcoin, it doesn't necessarily have all the signals that you'd want to see in terms of the volume, but it does add up. You know, it's kind of diminishing throughout this trend here. If the volume picks up again as we go below that 4,000 line, then you know you've very much got a head and shoulders on the go, and we can look towards a minimum measured move, if you want to use that terminology, of going back down to 2,891. So, you know, big old drop down in price. Let's just take out the old measuring stick and say that 23% drop down from our highs just to come to where we are now, then followed up with another 30% drop down. So you could have that 23% and then another 30% drop down, following on from the exuberance of this overall upward movement. And what's that again? An ideal hallmark of pump and dump shitcoin. So that's what that kind of is. It has to be said. But you know, these things, this doesn't need to happen. This doesn't need to be head and shoulders. It doesn't need to be that way. It doesn't need to be that way. It doesn't look any. It doesn't. You know. It like, again. You know. The really just like this diminishing volume throughout this here could very much kind of be this. Could be indicating towards what we can see happening. Have we had follow through, you could say, since this big pump area? Overall, not necessarily. Where did this volume and pump happen at? Let's just look at it in the VPVR. Going back the way, I'll go up to the 12-hour time frame so we can fit more in and look at the VPVR throughout this period of time, and we can see that there was that the pump happened in and around a time when we've historically had very low trading activity. So if I just go back and include the entire lifetime of this coin on here and delete that line I just put, that stuff I just put on there, and just kind of make the point that, again, just to underline this for people. As I say, by the way, join the channel. We do daily crypto technical analysis. I was just really messing up there when I was hitting that button. We do daily technical analysis, and this is a bonus video today. We do every day that we do Bitcoin, Ethereum, Chainlink, and Tezos, and we do it in a greed-free, FOMO-free way that can integrate quite easily with any other technical analysis you're looking at. So I highly recommend you subscribe to the channel and join the really happy family of really positive people that we've got on board so far. Because I'm a positive guy myself, and I try not to say actually anything acerbic. I don't know. That the community is following that lead, but we don't have assholes as part of this group, and that's really nice. And also we don't have any sort of FOMO, and we don't have any sort of stupid Moonboy crap or anything else. We don't have any crap. You know, we also don't have Doom boy perma bear crap. We don't have anything like that as part of the channel, so I highly recommend you get involved. I'm really trying to make something that fits it, like to fill a missing gap in the market in terms of technical analysis. Anyway, in terms of the VPVR here, you can see, if I include the entire history of price action on here, that there's some significant areas of like drop where it pumped, where it's missing, and in this particular area, just right where this volume candle came in at, just where we saw the prices go up at, there was a massive drop off in the trading thing, and there, as there always has been, because it's traded just below that area, so somebody pumped it up just there above that, and what's happened is they've come up as high as, or just below actually, where the previous trading area was, and the price action itself wasn't sufficient enough to bring it up in terms of just this VPVR and to wherever the next levels of sort of resistance were, you know. So can we say that an upward trend has really started quite yet? Not yet. But you know, we also don't have a higher low on the go, so maybe we're going to see that happen at some point, and you know, that could be good. Let's go back to auto again for this thing, and stick in a Fibonacci going from this swing low to our current high up here, and see about retraces if there is going to be one. A retrace, Fibonacci retracements, people who are unfamiliar with them, I don't actually like them all that much, but it gives you a really easy way of talking about things to people. It helps you communicate a message across. These retracements are sort of a retrace in the face of potentially continuing on with the trend. Where could you look to in terms of a pullback for a correction versus that before then going on the way? And well, you know, this becomes valid as soon as you drop down below the 236. What do we see here? Well, it's as if somebody's like, you know, it's as if people are kind of looking at this and making this happen. I don't want to put any conspiracy theory out there, but did I delete that right up above? Anyway, yeah. Anyway, these things happen in these lower cap coins. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, you could see the prices turn around if it were to get to dump down a little bit. Right where this little jump out here is on the VPVR, in here at the 382. That would be a normal enough place to see a turnaround happen, having gone there. This is your shallowest retrace that you can get, is the 236. The first target thereafter is the 382. You know, you could see it turn around there. If not, and you're looking towards the 50%. Why? Because Dow Jones 100 years ago said that was a thing, and ever since it has been. And actually, he only said it was a thing because he looked at the maths and it had been a thing before he said it. It's as old as the hills. Our human brains are kind of operate in terms of like 20% difference, you know, 50% difference. These things are how the human brain is programmed to work. Related to the fact that we've got 10 hands and everything else. 10 hands? Yeah, we've got 10 hands. If you consider yourself a human being and you don't have 10 hands, then get out of town. Anyway, so yeah, 10 fingers, and then after that, if that didn't work, then what are we looking at then in terms of this as being a retrace? Well, the golden pocket on this thing would be down here at 2,900. What would actually be happening at that point is you'd have come back in here, and then you'd be below all of this other resistance areas here that we have on the charts, you know, and you'd actually be back in here looking at this and saying, you know, as we look down the way, you'd be looking at this and saying, oh my goodness, we've come back in here, and could we see something happen? You know, overall, in terms of the recent price action, you could have looked at this as being a descending triangle, which has a bullish statistical likelihood of an outcome, especially if you're manually painting these things on yourself, because Binance, for instance, CZ, because perhaps, you know, you paid CZ or Coinbase are just as corrupt. In fact, we've seen Coinbase go down and have outages during major volatility recently, and I'm starting to think that maybe they're even worse than Binance. I don't know. Anyway, if you were, say, paying Binance or paying Coinbase or paying both of them to pump and dump it behind the backwards scenes, you might have thought that maybe they would go up here and do this and get this minimum measured move off the back of this. Now, this should really actually then continue towards the upside, and that would be okay. So let's try and hope that at the very least this downward sloping trend line in at the 618, at the very worst case scenario is where we see the prices turn around at, should they go down the way. But actually, you know, you want to see it turn around. You don't want to see it going down below this 4,000, just to reiterate that again. If it does go towards the upside, then you know, this was meant to be a minimum measured move from the textbook perspective. We actually talk about them on the channel as being maximum measured moves, but you know, you have that there or whatever. Could could we then start to trend towards the top side thereafter? Well, it's too early to say if this is going to be a sort of a higher low or whatever yet, but you could be looking towards kind of upward trending moves. Where would be the next thing then if you were the next target, if we were actually able to break above? Well, the first target, first off, you've got our previous highs in here at 5,000. Can we get up to the 5,000 area? You're talking like another, nearly 20% rise up here, actually more than 20% rise up in price, 25% rise up. If we can go up by another 25%, to get up to our previous highs at 5,000, then maybe we're talking about something here, and we can talk about this next area. Shouldn't be that difficult for it, given that there's been very little supply in this area. Going by the VPVR, the next area thereafter would have to be up here. But let's do this the other way around. Now we've had this Fibonacci on here. We've had a good laugh with it. You could say ha ha ha. Let's take one on from our highs to our lows, the recent highs to the recent lows. I've not said it so far, by the way. This is a shit coin. There's plenty of money to be made, as you can tell by the recent price activity. But this thing's a piece of shit. Looking at this then, okay, so where are we in terms of 236 from our very highs down to the lows? Miles away from it. So this is the very highs, the very lows. The 236 is in there at 6,594. You want to start thinking about how this coin could be could be your key to financial freedom. Then in terms of long in it, then you want to see the prices way up there above that. Given that that's more than 50% away from where the current price is, let's try looking down here. Let's say the next swing low and see where that could be at. Well, actually, then the next one here, then you can look towards this at 5,500 and say, well, we got up as high as that and no further. So this remains an invalid one. Let's try and force the issue though. Let's make it a valid one and say, is it valid quite yet? Well, actually, no. We move it down to the next swing high, and at 4,936, it remains still not operating as a valid swing high. All of this is a downward price movement, downward, downward, downwards. You could say this was it, but I'm actually going to take it to the last high there, in terms of this crap that was going on, and look towards it and see if we made it into the sort of valid Fibonacci zone in terms of this thing. That's at 4,844, so no, we've not yet. Again, it's still not in there. So overall, is this, oh wait, sorry, it is. Ha, that's the 50%. Did I get it wrong before? Yeah, I did. I got it wrong before. Oh dear, I got it wrong before. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Let's undo that, chat. So yeah, no, that swing high, no. So let's go and so I didn't get it wrong before. Oh, thank goodness. Right, okay, cool. Bring it on down. And if we go to this particular list, this swing high, the end of all this chat here, and drop it on there, we can see the 236 was actually here just where the pump started. In fact, down there at 3,129. So we've made that there, and we're currently being supported by. Is it hidden there? Yeah, it's just hidden in behind this line, the 382 in at 4,000. So there we go. So this is quite good, So if you want to talk about this swing high and sort of trying to do it from this area, and we're putting on our bullish goggles here for this thing, and why not? Why not? Why not? So long as we're above 4,000, essentially, then this is what we should be looking towards, I suppose. And we can say that we had the 50% target was met here, and then it's retraced back down subsequently to the 236. That ties in fair enough, in terms of the Fibonacci retracement. If you were to do it, if you were to look at the sort of 236. The 236 area here, or whatever, whatever, screw it. That ties in well enough. We've come back down here towards the 382. So can we then maybe go back up and look towards the 4,800 figure? If we get above 4,800 and are actually doing something there, then we can reasonably actually look towards that 5,650 area for a golden pocket retrace, which would be that coming in around this area here. But again, this is still a little bit generous, really, overall, in terms of the time and everything else that we're looking at. It's still quite macro. Let's look down to what, maybe fits more in terms of the mentality of people who are looking at this thing, and put it down to our previous area with this. Is that, just there? Yeah, that would maybe be better body to body, since that's all outside. We'll go wick to wick on it anyway, and say that the 236 there, or the 786. No, that's 100. So if we go from this high at the start of the descending triangle, okay, this one makes a bit more sense because there's at least a reason for it, right? So we go from the high of the descending triangle, sorry, yeah, the high of the descending triangle down to the low. I had that wrong because we've now gone past this price action, sorry, so I have to bring it over to here, to this low, to the low of the descending triangle, and we use a Fibonacci retracement across the board of this descending triangle. What did we get in terms of Fibonacci retracement extensions in and the move? Once we went past 100%, in terms of the extensions, we came up here to the 1.272 and the 1.414, which are two areas to look for in terms of overextended, the next area is Fibonacci extensions. But again, so this line here at 5,600 would be the next target again if we get past 4,800. I suppose really 5,000 for the extensions for the 1618 golden retrace sort of extension area, on that one. Overall, am I positive about this coin? I think I've been quite clear in the sense that I'm not really particularly positive about it. But like I say a billion times, I'll repeat it again. So long as we're above 4,000 satoshis, I think you can remain bullish on this thing. And look, as well as that the next target is our previous high, of course, at 4,300 or so. We could get there. We could even get there with the way that this thing's going, today or whatever, and then we can look towards the 5,000, 5,250, and 5,678 is our sort of the next three targets there in terms of just what we could be looking to thereafter. Of course, up towards 6,000, but I would just be concerned about something like this. We're coming into the halving and whatnot. Does this justify what it's doing? I don't know. Is there any reason for why this price action could have happened outside of the pump and dump scenario? I don't know. I've not looked into the news, so to speak, with this. I mean, have they launched a main net? Have they got a real value? Have they got a deal with somebody where there's actually a utility for this thing? Or is it simply a coin which is, first listed on Coinbase, was it not? Was it, or one of them, with almost zero value, and it's essentially been a pump and dump coin the whole time as they scam people out of money? And I've got zero faith in Coinbase as being a legitimate non-scammy type thing anymore after the recent scammy actions. One of the reasons why I say that they're recently scammy actions is because I bought Ethereum and I wanted to transfer it from Coinbase. I bought Ethereum. I bought a bunch of Ethereum down here. I was watching the prices live on Ethereum. I bought it down here at $83 on Coinbase, right? And then I thought, well, I'm going to take this to a leverage exchange and I'm going to long this bitch, right, from here. I wanted to long it up the way. And when did they actually let the transfer go through from my account? Well, not until the prices were back up here at $150. That's what they kept back at Ethereum that I bought on their exchange until it was up there. And they went down during that drop there, and they went down during the drop there the other day, yesterday as well. So look out for that. And so I'm not particularly enthusiastic about these things. If I go back, will it take me there? Leave? No, it won't. That'll do for that. If you want to have more technical analysis done on this thing, then sure. But I recommend if you're looking for sort of interim bullish case scenarios or people with biases or whatever on this thing, to go and check them out. Let me know. I could maybe watch the analysis they've done. That was just a sort of brief overview of the coin. My first impressions of it. If you want more, you want me to look at it again and again, and I would happily get more detailed, and we could look at other things. I'll stick the moving averages on there. Actually, let's just do that before I tune out. Huobi ZRX. It didn't start on there. Let's go to Coinbase. Did it start on Coinbase? No, it didn't start on Coinbase. Take all that chat about Coinbase starting on Coinbase back. Dumped since it got on a Coinbase though. Big dump. Dump. So yeah, let's stick the moving averages on, and then I'm tuning out. And if you want to see more chat, then let me know about this. And I'm going at the 24-hour time frame, and I'm going to have them all on here. Let me stick them all on. And that's all bullshit. Go down to a smaller time frame so that maybe we're closer in amongst them. Yeah, okay, well, all just kind of ties together. Oh, this is against the dollar. I'm going to answer that. I'm screwing it all up. Right, okay, catch you later. Was I looking at it versus Bitcoin at the start? I was looking at it versus Bitcoin. Maybe you wanted the whole time. You're going to have to actually tell me, if you request a coin, tell me what pairing you want me to look at. Overall, would I say that there's any difference in terms of this thing and on the dollar one versus the Bitcoin one? No, it's all exactly the same in terms of the sort of the drop-offs, when the pump happened, the volume aspect of this thing as being sort of only ever been pumping and dumping. you know, with the standard deviations of this thing going up as the overall volume goes down and stuff like that. This here, is it real or not? I don't know. We're above these areas, 350. You know, I want to see it stay above 35 cents. 35 cents would be the equivalent of that 4,000 over there on Coinbase. You had this upward movement in the price action over the longest since in March, you know, but in terms of this low and then this low, they were bearish, they were bullishly divergent on the RSI, so you could have thought that this upward movement would happen. In terms of this upward price trend, looking at the tops and stuff, where there's no bearish divergence throughout that. We came up to this oversold zone in terms of the stochastics. And we've dropped down with a bit of bearish divergence at the top of these things as well. Has that happened? Yeah, on the stochastics, it's bearishly divergent between these 2 points here. Not much of a surprise, really. I don't know. I'm sorry that I didn't talk. If you'd wanted it, anyway, I'm going to publish this as it is. I know it's not perfect. I'm going to publish it anyway. Let me know if you wanted something else, perhaps to look at the dollar pound or whatever. And let me know your own thoughts anyway, because I've never looked. I mean, I didn't even know how you say this stupid coin beforehand. I think that I was not allowed to take part in the Binance or the Coinbase Learn thing to get given your free $10 of this thing. I think I was going to, so that's one of the reasons why I know absolutely nothing about it, is because I haven't done that stupid $10 thing. Phone battery's just died. There we go. The gods are telling me that I should have finished this thing a minute ago. I'm going to catch you later. Remember to like and subscribe, take part in this as we grow the channel. Appreciate you tuning in so much. Catch you next time.